Hi, Leah here. I'm so glad to be here with you. You signed up for my course on how to stop arguing now. You're going to get my expert tips on how to stop arguing, how to have more peace, and how to get on moving, living your life. I use this method for almost every couple I see with great success, and so I'm so glad to pass this on to you. These are tools that as you practice and continue using will be useful for now and for the rest of your life. Now, this course is split up into 3 days, and the reason for that is I want you to digest it a little at a time so you can get good at each part. Each part is crucial and builds upon the other. I also know you're busy, so I wanted it to be short. All you'll need is 15 minutes per day. I've included a short workbook for you and your partner to use so you can take the principles and apply them to your own life. Now, with that being said, everyone is different and this is the guide. Note that if you have more serious issues like untreated mental illness, chronic infidelity or abuse, or some other deep breach of trust, you may need more guidance to work through these deeper issues. However, learning these tools will still be a powerful skill to have in practice. Okay, so here we go. Part 1 is we're going to understand this thing called fight, flight, and freeze. And this is going to be important for you as we continue learning about communication and how to reduce arguing. So when you're having a calm discussion, you're using the part of your brain that is able to reason, right? However, when you feel threatened by your partner, your brain goes into the area that is responsible for fight or flight. This is the primitive part of our brain that told our ancestors that if they face a bear, they should either fight it, run away, or freeze. Okay, when we get into a heated situation, we also get into these same panic reactions, except it's not a bear we're faced with, it's usually someone we love, right? So when we get into an argument with someone, we might feel threatened and then our brain goes into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, right? Take a minute to reflect on what your panic reaction is. Is it to fight? This would mean maybe when you get heated, you may yell or name call, or in extreme cases, act violently towards your partner, or maybe refuse to let them leave, things like that. If your panic reaction is to flee from the threat, you may want to leave right away. The conflict is too overwhelming that you need to just get out of there. Sometimes when you're in this state, you want to just say, you know what, forget you, I'm out of here. And you may make your partner feel abandoned and insignificant. The third panic reaction is to freeze. And when we freeze, we totally shut down during an argument. You may still physically be there, but you might zone out or like disengage. And a lot of times people that are on the receiving end of a freezer, they may feel like unheard, unloved, unimportant, that kind of thing. So this is important to know because a lot of the damage happens during this, when we're in this part of our brains, the fight, flee, or freeze, right? And those things erode trust in a relationship and it takes time to build again. So I want you to pause the video and take a minute, it's in your workbook, to write down what your panic reaction is. Do you fight, flee, or freeze? And I also want you to reflect, how has my reaction, my panic reaction hurt someone? So, if you are a fighter, maybe something you said, right? Or if you are a fleer, maybe your partner feels like you've, abandoned them or don't want to work on the issue. So just take a moment to do that, okay? All right, so now that we've done that, I want to talk about how do we get out of this panic area of our brain? How do we get out of the fight or flight so that we don't do things that we regret, okay? Here are the steps on how to do this. So the first step is to call a timeout. Now, a lot of people say, well, I did call a timeout, I left. So calling a timeout is different than leaving, right? So the attitude of leaving is kind of like, forget you, I'm sick of you, I'm out of here. It's me against you. And what we need to do is kind of switch that and come from a place of collaboration, which is hard, right? So we, instead of saying, I'm out of here, I'm done with you, I'm gone, we want to say something like, look, we're not in a good place right now. Let's take a break. Okay, it's kind of like, we're in this together and let's take a break. We're both heated. And then this part is really, really important. Give a time frame of when you'll come back together. This helps the other person not feel abandoned, especially if you are a fleer and the other person is a fighter, right? So you can say, hey, let's check in again in 30 minutes when we're calmed down. Now, if you're not a fleer and someone says, we need to take a time out, let's come back in 30 minutes, then you need to respect that. Let them go. You calm down too. Okay? Make sure you come back when you say you're going to come back, or at least check in and say, I need another hour. I would say more than 24 hours is too much to be separated. If you're needing more time than 24 hours, I would say there are probably deeper issues going on, and you probably need either some outside help, professional help, or you just need someone to help you process why this is happening. Okay. So what I want you to do is pause the video, and then when you pause the video, I want you to write down, and this is in your workbook, 1, how do you know when things are getting heated, right? Sometimes we don't know, it just happens. But if we can be mindful of like, okay, these are the cues. I know when my heart starts beating quickly, or I know when my partner starts saying this certain thing, we're getting heated, right? So kind of write down the cues that you know. And then 2, I want you to write down a script that you can say to take a timeout. So both of you are on the same page. Like, okay, this is my cue to take a timeout. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it's good to prepare so that you have something to use when you're in the heat of the moment. Because when you're in the heat of the moment, all rationality goes out the window. So you need to be prepared as possible. And then when you are in the timeout, this is also really important. Okay, take time to get calm. Do not think about more points to prove you're right, or think about what you should have said to prove your point. What you want to do is you want to get your brain from this fight or flight area into the more rational thinking. Okay, so distract yourself in positive ways. There's some ideas like call a friend, go for a walk or a jog, go to the mall, read your favorite magazine or book, watch your favorite YouTube channel, pray or meditate. So go ahead and pause and write down maybe a list of 5 or 6 things. What helps you? So go ahead and do that right now. Write down the things that you can do to calm down. So hopefully you've done that and you have a plan for what you can do when you feel heated. And so we're going to recap. These are the steps to prevent yourself from getting into that place where you're going to explode or leave or do something that's going to hurt the other person. 1, you're going to call a timeout for when things are getting heated, okay? Then you're going to give a time frame of when you'll be back, okay? And then you're going to take that time to calm down. And that's very important. Don't leave and get all worked up. And if you can do this, you'll save yourself a lot of time having to clean up the damage that is done while in an argument, okay? Now that's it for today's lesson. Tomorrow we're going to do step 2, which is we're going to set the stage for reconciliation, okay? And I'll see you then.